Hey everybody, this is part of our full-length primetime podcast. You can check it out on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, YouTube, plenty more. I hope you enjoy.
This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, everybody? Ricky Widmer here, along with the one, the only, Brandon Swanson.
Hey.
And we are back for the Primetime Podcast here on Most Valuable Podcast. If you're on YouTube, thank you and hello. Wonderful to see your faces here. Again, if you're on Blog Talk Radio, iTunes, or Stitcher, thank you guys for giving us the listen and the download today. And Brandon, we got a jam-packed show. I'm getting right into it because we're talking a little bit of basketball to start. We're gonna give a little thoughts on the championship game, not go too far into it because we do have our video that we went in fuller detail. But in this podcast, we're talking Wichita State, but then we're moving right back into football. Lamar Jackson and Louisville, are they a college football playoff team? And then we're talking year of the quarterback. Will 2017 be the year of the quarterback in college football? But before we move back into college football officially, Brandon, what a game last night. What a way to end the 2016-2017 college basketball season.
Yeah, it was a great game. It was, I think as Roy Williams said, not well played by either team, but it was certainly an entertaining game for all the fans and a lot of fun to watch. I think for probably a lot of people, a little nerve-wracking to watch at times, but it was very, very exciting. I'm very happy for North Carolina, but I'm sad for Gonzaga because they played so well throughout the entire season. They played so well throughout that entire tournament. And, you know, just listening to Mark Few talk at the end to Tracy Wolfson, it was tough because you can just tell how good of a guy he is, how genuine of a guy he is, and saying that, you know, the thing he hates the most is that he's never going to work with that squad again because guys will be gone. I mean, you lose Karnowski. And it's just like, you're never going to have that core group again. And that's tough. You know, that's tough. But I think for both teams, they have to look and be very, very happy with what they've done, with what they accomplished in North Carolina, obviously, after last season, how it ended, being able to kind of avenge that loss. And then with Gonzaga, kind of, I mean, they didn't win it, but they did just about as much as you can. Without winning it, I think they put the haters to sleep for a little while. Well,
my big takeaway from the national championship game, and this was the one thing that I'll say before we get into Wichita State, is I think we need 4 quarters in college basketball because, Brandon, I will tell you what, it was painful to go, okay, there's 10 minutes left. They're still in the bonus. Really, that started at 13. And then to go, oh, okay, it's the final 2 minutes. Oh, wait, there's 8 minutes left on the clock. Why are we... It felt like the game slowed down in the second half because somebody got too whistle happy. And you guys know who that is. They're wearing the black and white shirts. Got a little bit too whistle happy in that game. That's the only thing that I feel this one had that last year's didn't, was there are too many whistles in this one. Slowed the game down so much. Get us 4 quarters, get that bonus to be reset. But me and Brandon, if you're like, whoa, talk about national championship more, we talked about it in a separate video where we announced our tournament winner for the college bracket. So go check that out on our YouTube channel. But Brandon, let's get right into it. The first topic here on the podcast today, we're staying in the world of college basketball, and it's all about Wichita State, the Missouri Valley Conference team that just edged out Illinois State. We talked about the Redbirds earlier this year. The Wichita State Shockers are not officially, but it seems like everything I'm seeing, all the little articles from Wichita, Kansas coming out of the woodworks, they're going to be moving to the AAC. I'm just going to kick it off to you. What does this mean for the Shockers to move to the AAC from the MVC?
Well, I think that it would certainly allow them to have more competition throughout the season, and they would have more competition within their own conference. And I think that that's absolutely what they're looking for, because right now, who's really challenging them in their conference? Illinois State?
That was the only team they lost to, really. They split it and then won in the tournament.
No one else is really is really giving them any competition. They have to look outside of their conference for that. So I think being able to come over here to the AAC is definitely going to allow them to have more competition with teams like who were good this year, SMU, Cincinnati. We've seen the UConns in the past, Memphis's in the past, stuff like that. I think this certainly will allow more competition. I think the AAC, if I'm that, I'm welcoming the Wichita State over, who's been a very, very strong team the last couple of years. So I'm very excited if I'm the AAC. I'm very excited if I'm Wichita State, and I'm very excited if I'm Illinois State.
Well, and to me, the big thing you say, they had to get that kind of competition from outside the conference. Just from this past year, they played LSU, which, are they really that much above Wichita State? But still, a Power 5 team, got the win. They weren't afraid to go ahead and say, we are going to play number 10 Louisville. Yeah, they lost that game, but it was only by 10 points. And then say, we're going to play number 24 Michigan State. Only lost that game by 5 points. And then they go ahead and, of course, they're a Power 5 team, but Oklahoma had a struggling season this year. They still go out, schedule a game in Norman to go in there and beat the Sooners. And then they even played Oklahoma State as well, where they lost that game. That was their biggest loss to a Power 5 team this season at home. They lost 93-76. And I look at this move and I think it had to happen sooner or later. And the reason why I say that is because either one of two things I saw happening with the Shockers. Either one, Greg Marshall stays as head coach and they move to a more competitive conference, or what they do is stay in the MVC, and then Greg Marshall goes, okay, bye, Audi 5000. I'm going to go to a team which would be actually competitive. Did I see that second one happening? No, because Greg Marshall, you can tell, loves this team. So that's why I was leaning more towards eventually Wichita State is going to get out of the Missouri Valley Conference. Here's the one thing I think, though, in my head, and you kind of mentioned it. There were teams like, you look at SMU, you look at Cincinnati, you look at Central Florida, who was a far NIT team. I want to say they made the Final Four of the NIT this season. Houston had a good season. Memphis, a good team. Connecticut, a good team. Is there a chance, and this is just back of my head, is there a chance Wichita State comes in, doesn't do so hot? I'm not saying like they're going to finish behind South Florida, who finished 7-23. Of course, they're going to be better than a team like that. But let's see, SMU, Cincinnati, Houston, Central Florida, Memphis, Connecticut, that's 6. What if Wichita State comes in and finishes 7th in the American? Is that seen then as a failure? Would fans look at that and go, we should have just stayed in the MVC, won it, got the automatic bid?
Yeah, of course for fans it's going to be a failure. And I think for the programmer probably would look at it as a failure too, but at the same time you could also allow yourself that first year. Okay, well, it's our first year, we're certainly getting more competition. I think it's certainly a good point to bring up, but I don't think that's exactly what's going to happen. We've seen Wichita State over the last couple of years. Again, MVC, yes, not that strong. People know that. But I think that with the way that they have played outside of their conference, they've been competitive. And I think that also the way that we've seen them play within the tournament, they've been competitive. I think that they won't struggle all that much when they come over here. Now, are they going to come in and win right away? I don't think so. But are they going to be very, very competitive and be a strong team right away? I do. But I also don't think that it would be a failure if year one they come in and they don't do so well, because I think you should be allowed kind of that grace period of a year. You're getting settled. You're getting used to playing against these teams all the time, then seeing these teams as opposed to seeing those kind of cupcake teams over in the MVC. So I don't think that it would be looked at as a failure. I think it would be looked at as, okay, we're going to give them this. Year 2, you're doing the same thing. Year 3, you're doing the same thing. That is a failure. And then people certainly would have a reason to say, why did we move? Why did we come over here? But I think that you take a look. You've got SMU 30-5 this season, Cincinnati 30-6, 21-11 for Houston. UCF was 24-12, and then Memphis 19-13. Those are the teams that had a 500 record or above. And that's 4 teams. You were hard-pressed to find that over in the MVC. You were hard-pressed to find a team that was fairly competitive outside of Wichita State and Illinois State. And Illinois State didn't even end up making it because they're not strong enough outside of their conference. These teams are playing teams outside their conference, and they're playing pretty decent teams within their conference. So Wichita State is trying to make a really good move by saying, guess what? Not only do we want to be competitive outside our conference, we want to have competition within our conference. We want to show people that we are not just they play cupcake teams anyways. They're gonna make it because they're gonna beat all those teams. They want to show people, hey, no, we are actually very talented. We will beat tougher opponents. We can consistently beat tough opponents if you put us in the right conference. Now they're looking for the right conference. They may have found it.
Well, and the thing I think of is when you say, because we all know why they're making this move. It's exactly what you said. In my mind, I think it's to get a tougher conference schedule, which will help the committee, because if you do well in that conference and maybe even win that conference eventually down the road, then what that will do is, Wichita State won't be seen as that 10 seed, 9 seed, double seeded team kind of a team who won the MVC. They'll be seen as like SMU this year, a 6 seed. Won the regular season crown for the conference tournament. They were the 6th seed in their region, whereas Wichita State was number 10. And I know Coach Calipari came out on Selection Sunday while we were recording the podcast because we watched it. We came right here for these guys to tell them what we thought about the bracket. But he even said, you know what, Wichita State underranked in this one, underseeded in this one. That was a mistake to put them at 10. But in my mind, as you were talking, I kind of thought of this thought where, you want to leave for a tougher conference schedule, but it's kind of to me, I think of the argument we just had last night, where what was the one thing immediately after the game and even during the game that there were people even in our MVP group that were saying about the Zags? Oh, this is why they didn't play that tough of a conference schedule. Put them up against a good team. This is what you get. Of course, that's ludicrous because they played teams like Xavier and Northwestern, and they played quality teams throughout the tournament.
They didn't get blown out.
They didn't get blown out either. But here's the thing I think of. The WCC right now is a 2-team conference. The Zags and the Gales. Zags do really well, and I know the Zags this year did really well. They only lost 2 games at the end of the year. Not quite the same as Wichita State, but just kind of work with what I'm working with here for a second. It's a 2-team conference. It's the Zags, it's the Gales. Zags get a 1 seed. The Gales were a 7 seed. Is it that the WCC, we say, they're not a conference, but are they a better conference than the Missouri Valley, who to me, of course, it all depends on what Illinois State is kind of working with, but really that was a two-team conference as well. You had Wichita State at the top. You had Illinois State right behind them. Do they really have to move to the ACC in order
AAC.
or the AAC, pardon me, to get that love from the committee when it comes to tournament time? Because really, to me, that's all it really means is let's get a higher seed so it makes our road theoretically easier.
Well, let me put this into perspective for you. So Gonzaga, they played a number of opponents outside their conference. They beat all of them. Now, Wichita State did not.
No, like I said, they lost Oklahoma State, Louisville, and Michigan State this year.
So there you go. Gonzaga beat Florida. Gonzaga beat Arizona. Gonzaga beat some other teams outside of their conference
State,
as well.
Tennessee.
Iowa State, there you go. So that's why Gonzaga got a number 1 seed. Wichita State got a whatever seed that they got.
10.
Because they didn't beat those out-of-conference teams. Those tough ones. Tough. I mean, they're tough. They're glad you scheduled them. That's going to help you. You only lost by 10 to Arizona or Louisville? Okay. You lost by 10. That's not bad. I think that that's kind of how you have to look at the factors there. The WCC is very, very similar, like you mentioned, to the WVC. They've got two teams that are anything, really, that are really worth a grain of salt right now. Could another team eventually be better? Sure. But I think that because Gonzaga scheduled all those out-of-conference games and won them all, they were a number one. If Wichita State had won them all as well, beat Michigan State, beat Louisville, beat those teams, could have been a 3, a 4, but they didn't. So that's, I think, the reason why they ended up with the seed that they had. But you don't necessarily need to leave your conference, as we saw with Gonzaga. You've just got to schedule good outside of your conference opponents, and you have to beat them. Gonzaga's 2 losses, one to who was it? Who was the first one? BYU. I wanted to say San Diego. That didn't make any sense. BYU in their conference, correct? Mm-hmm. And then their second loss to North Carolina in the championship game. That's why they were a number 1 seed. And that is why they're a number 1 seed. And again, you take a look at Wichita State. Could they stay in their conference and still be a viable team? Yes, but you have to schedule Arizona. You have to schedule an Oregon. You have to try and schedule a Duke. Someone like teams that would make sense. You can't get all 3 of those in the same season. Holy crap. Yeah. That would be really good. But if you lost all those, that also doesn't help. But those are the types of teams you need to schedule. They could stay where they are and be okay. But I think that they're going to have a better chance by making this move to the AAC, because overall it's just a better conference. Overall it has championships. Overall, these teams, UConn, who was 16 and 17 this year, will they be better again down the road? Oh, I expect it. Memphis, who is 19 and 13 this year, are they going to be better down the road? Oh, I expect it. UCF, are they going to be better? Yes. Cincinnati, are they going to be back? Yes. SMU, they're always consistently good. Now Wichita State is going to be joining them. That's good for them because they don't have to do as much out-of-conference scheduling work because in the conference, it's already there. The competition is already there. So do I see the importance of being able to leave your conference? Absolutely. And for them, I think it's the right move. But could they still be good in the WVC? And could they still make a run as a possible high seed? A 1, a 2, a 3, a 1, that might be tough. But a 3, a 4, I think they could do it. They just have to schedule precisely the right teams and beat them.
Well, and another thing, and before I go on, I just want to correct you on one thing. MVC, not WVC.
You know what I meant. I kept saying the WCC.
You know what? I'm just saying it because I know someone in the comment section has already typed it, but the one thing... And
MVC, no one cares.
No one doesn't care VC, unless it's VCU. But the one thing that I do want to go off of with what you just said is, when it comes to the American Conference, 2 thoughts that I was having while you were talking was, one, if I'm the American Conference, the AAC, I'm ecstatic I am surprised to at this point, like a lot of articles say, Wichita State's just waiting on the American to get back to them. I'm surprised it's taking this long. And the only reason I can think it is taking this long because they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Fuck it. They have 11 teams at it. This makes it even. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, I just had to double check. They have 11 teams. This makes it even. Just go ahead and add them already. They're a great team. And on top of it, you look at the kind of coaches that you already have in this conference. Tim Jankovich, a guy that we have talked about for numerous coaching jobs this year. He was originally at Illinois State in the MVC, then came over to SMU at the end of last year. He took over 9 games, went 9-0, and then this year 30-5 with the SMU Mustangs. You also have Kevin Ollie at UConn. You have Cronin at Cincinnati. You have Tubby Smith at Memphis. Now you are taking Greg Marshall and you're adding him to the mix. You're adding another great coach to this conference to where, I mean, none of these coaches are on the level of Coach K, Roy Williams, Tom Izzo, Rick Pitino, Coach Calipari when it comes to that name recognition, but the name is there. The name is there. You have quality coaches now, and you're just adding another one to this already tough conference. And then on the other side, I look at it for the teams like Illinois State and the rest of the MVC, I'm celebrating. I am celebrating that Wichita State is moving out of our conference. You want to know why, Brandon? You want to know why? Easier road for you. You do not need, no longer will you have to go, well, looks like we're not winning the conference title this year because Wichita State has it. Now it either becomes, A, there's going to be a lot of pressure put on Illinois State. Basically, you're the top dog in town. Are you going to be the top dog or are you going to crumble under the pressure? And two, it shows every other team, you know what, we now have a fight for that conference title, for that automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. So kind of just two thoughts that I have, but kind of like to wrap everything up for this is I'm just going to throw it to you. Just final thoughts. Do you think it's a good move for Wichita State? And in their first year, which would be this upcoming season, 2017-2018, how do you think they do in the American?
I think that it's a very, very good move by Wichita State to try and join the AAC. I think it's a very good move by them. And I think that this is going to long-term be something that's going to be very positive overall. And the other part of your question where I think that they'll end up is I think that next year we're going to see Cincinnati win it, and then in second place will be Wichita State, followed by SMU in third.
Wow. You think that Wichita State's coming in and just boom, right away, we're one of the top dogs?
I think that because they've been so good, and I'm basing this off of their tournament play. Mm-hmm. They can play with those teams in the tournament.
Yeah, they can.
They can play with these teams.
Mm-hmm.
They could. They can definitely do it. And I know it's kind of a lofty thought, but I don't think that they'll win it. Mm-hmm. But second or third, I think is very possible for them because they are one of the better teams. Mm-hmm. I think out there in college basketball right now. They're well coached. And again, I understand they're coming from what has been, most people would say, a cupcake conference. Yes, I get that. Everyone does. But if they wouldn't have had the type of tournament success as well that they have had, I mean, look at the game they played against Kentucky. One of the best teams almost beat North Carolina. Oh, they almost beat Kentucky. They were almost there instead of Kentucky. I think that this team is very capable of competing right away in the AAC. I think it's a great move.
I am going to say this. It's a good move for Wichita State. And the reason why I'm saying good is because it gives you a tougher conference schedule. It brings you into a tougher conference so that people will see American. They'll see those teams, and the committee might reward you for it. But on the same side, I kind of have that feeling of, well, look at what the Zags have done. They're in a nobody cares conference, but they've been able to build a legacy of winning and winning enough to where they can go ahead and win every game but one on their schedule, get a number one seed, and then do damage in the tournament. I know this was the first year they went to the Final Four, but as for where they finish, I'll give you this. I don't know who's going to win it. I am not ready to crown a champion for next year in the American, but I think at the best they'll be a top three team. Top three. I think it's SMU, Cincinnati, and Wichita State, like you said, could be those top three teams. However, it's one of those things where they're either going to finish third at best, fifth at the worst. And that's like an absolutely worst kind of a thing because I look at Memphis and UConn, which are behind Houston and Central Florida for this year. I love those two teams. I love what they got going. Kevin Ollie had a great group this year. Tubby Smith is doing some great things at Memphis. Those are going to be two teams that I think climb up the American leaderboard next year. But this is where we're going to turn it on to you guys, the fans. Let us know down below in the comment section, what do you guys think? Is this a good move for Wichita State? Should they have stayed in the MVC? What do you think overall about this move by Wichita State to try to get into the American or the AAC? Let us know down below in the comment section.
Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed a lot of emotion. If you want more, click this video right over my left shoulder. You will certainly not regret it.